Susan Speakman, I'm just going to do a couple of these and I'm going to call it a day. In TSL 237, you discuss Bruce Ismay, the White Star owner who survived the Titanic sinking only to be basically outcast from society for the rest of life. Is it time to bring ostracism back as a form of punishment? Because I think that Speaker Pelosi's tearing up of the State of the Union speech last week was an action eminently worthy of shunning ostracism, being sent to Coventry, being expelled from polite society, etc. It's a great point, Susan. You can't ostracize your enemies because they don't associate with you anyway, but you can ostracize your friends. And to the degree that this is effective or not, I think you probably want to email Mitt Romney about that one. I just have to come back to the comment section. Dave Wellman said that it was a great analogy. Trump was midway. Was impeachment Operation 10 go? Yes, impeachment was their last gasp. It was their long shot, last gasp, one-way mission, Suicide Express to throw the dice one last time and try and defend the Philippines against the Americans. You're going to send the Yamato out there, which had never sunk anything. Maybe put a couple hits into a destroyer. It's a gigantic thing. Musashi never sank a single thing. And send it out there. We doesn't have enough fuel to come home. We're just going to kamikaze them out and try and stop the Americans one last tie. Hope against hope. It wasn't even hope against hope. They had no chance to do it. None. The same as the impeachment thing. It's a really good observation. So anyway, Mitt Romney's feeling the ostracization and couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I was flying with this pilot, and we were at 14,000 feet, and I couldn't see out the window. It was covered in ice, and I was having a great time. I was just checking instruments and confirming altitudes. Not that he needed my help, but you never know. It's always nice to have a second pair of eyes, making sure that your altitude is higher. It's a bigger number than the numbers on the chart in terms of the ground references. And we were talking about Romney, and since he's a pilot, he's a conservative, of course, because if you're a pilot and you're terribly wrong or stupid, you die. He was talking about Romney, and he was saying, "Oh, Romney talking about my personal convictions and my personal feelings and all of that." And he said, "Yeah, that's fine, but your job is to be a representative of the people of your state. It's not about you and your personal feelings. You know how the people who sent you there want you to vote. And while I do agree that the individual conscience of a representative is some sort of a final circuit breaker, I guess, I think his point is just really excellent. It's the narcissism of it, just the raw, sheer ego, bitterness, envy, jealousy, all of it. But it's precisely the same thing that I saw with our other presidential candidate, John McCain, where John McCain could have stopped Obamacare, could have reversed it. He was the deciding vote, had this little grin on his face. I'm the maverick. I'm going to decide the future of the country. And because he hated Donald Trump personally, he went out and sold out whatever principles he claims to have had. He never had any, really, looking back on it. Same thing for Romney. It's just an indication, really. It's just like a post-game analysis. In hindsight's always 20/20. But I'll tell you, you look back on McCain and Romney, and then the things they did after they lost, and you realized what pathetically weak sticks they were in terms of us putting our hopes and the hopes of the country on. So, not only is he's never going to get, the left loved him for a couple days, and they'll go back to hating him, needless to say. No one in the Republican Party is ever going to talk to him again, let alone make deals with him, let alone, negotiate with the guy. He's in his own universe. He's disappeared behind his own event horizon now. Yeah. Dave Wellman says, hey, everybody's idolizing Romney now. What about the binders full of women? So anyway, Yeah, a lot of people are saying they're ashamed to have voted for him. Me too, but we didn't know at the time. It was just, you didn't really know you really didn't know how weak McCain and Romney were until Trump came along, and Palin too. Uh, I remember Natasha had been in the country for maybe maybe 2 weeks, I want to say, and we went to watch the first debate with whatever conservatives in Hollywood are left. It was maybe, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 of us, something like that. And we watched that debate, and I think we were 2 minutes into it when Donald Trump launched the first, like, smack in the nose personal attack against her. I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was one of these Donald Trump little snipey comments. And the room just exploded. It was like watching. It wasn't just like watching a touchdown. It was like watching a touchdown when the other team is favored by 40 points. It's like, holy crap! We're not supposed to be able to. We're not that we're not supposed to do it. We're not supposed to be able to do it. We're not supposed to have the capability of doing this. And people just roared, just came out of their chairs, and it was like watching a football game. And it was, so we're not just taking hits. We're not just playing defense here. No, we're actually hitting back. We're scoring. We're scoring points. And you know, and it's only once you've seen that you can look back on Romney and McCain and realize just how bad the idea was in general. It's like, oh, here's a moderate. It's like, it's not a moderate. McCain is a McCain is a McCainian, and Romney is a technocrat. And as Jeremy Boring pointed out, in 2012 we had the Tea Party movement, which started in 2009 in direct response to Obamacare, and we nominate the one guy in the entire party who's already done Obamacare in terms of Romney Care in Massachusetts. It's insane, insane. Eric Blake says we should have stood for Herman Cain. Well, a lot of us were ready to stand for Herman Cain. And then I was in a close meeting with some of Herman Cain's top advisors, and they asked me if I would help them. I said I'd be happy to. And I said, but these allegations that have just come out, I want to know before we put our names to this, that these are not true. Oh, no, absolutely not true. Mr. Cain's going to fight these. Absolutely, he's going to go all the way to the nomination. It's absolutely not true, and you can rest assured on that. And 2 days later, he dropped out of the race. So, so much for that. Anyway, Romney deserves all of it. I think there's move to. I'm not sure about the details. I think Utah has to actually create legislation in order to be able to recall him. I'm not sure about that. That seems what I remember hearing. But in any event, I hope they do, because it's appropriate for him. And it's just plain narcissism. It's the same with McCain. I'm going to sell out the country just to show that son of a bitch Donald Trump who he's messing with. People don't deserve to be in politics. That kind of childishness belongs in a chat session in a science fiction game. That's where you go with that kind of adolescent anger and childishness. It's not for adults, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And I don't know if they ever will be, but I'm sure Romney. The only thing that's interesting about the Romney thing is, did he expect it to go differently? Not the vote. Did he actually expect that people would be, swayed by his letter that he personally wrote to every single member of the Congress? Mitt, why don't you do your job? Your job is to represent the people of Utah. What do you think the people of Utah who elected you want you to do in this particular vote? That's your job. Do your job. Nope. So, yeah, the state should appoint senators, and the Senate should be the Senate again, not just the House of Lords. So anyway, There you go. I do find it telling that he reportedly kept asking Donald Trump for appointments or wanted a piece of the administration pie and got turned down. Then he turned bitter. I find the same argument against John Bolton, who I admired quite a bit during the Obama years. And I remember thinking, well, John, if the president really is committing this travesty against the Constitution, and his actions are in fact illegal, immoral, and destroying the fabric of the Constitution, then the time to do something about that would have been while you were in office, and not months later, and not like Hamlet and announce by dropping a handkerchief somewhere from some balcony that you'd be willing to testify if the Senate would call on you or the House would call on you. I might be willing to say a few things if the House decided to call on me. Oh, I've dropped my handkerchief. Oh. If only someone would pick it up. Who will rid me of this troublesome priest? And so it's like, all right, John, if it's that serious, I respect you. I did anyway. Then what you need to do is you need to resign as National Security Advisor. You need to tell the president that you're going to resign, and you need to tell him why. And you need to say, I am utterly convinced that the things I've seen have been destructive for this country, and my patriotism far outweighs my sense of loyalty, especially to somebody who's committing these kind of crimes. This is what he should have said if he believed what he said. And so therefore, I'm resigning, Mr. President. I'm holding a press conference later on this evening, and I'm going to tell them why I'm resigning, and that's it. So, okay. But that's not what you did, John. You just you walked off, you got fired, you didn't say anything. The investigation went on in the House. Maybe you were waiting to be subpoenaed, but you could have simply testified. You could have simply just come out and shown up and said it. I have pretty simple standards when it comes to this kind of thing. This whole legal obligations and legal jeopardy carries no weight with me at all. I know that's unusual, but it just doesn't. I have a pretty clear sense of right and wrong in this regard, and it's like I mentioned earlier. I'm just bringing this up simply to illustrate the example. I think the one person that could have saved Star Wars from being dismembered, there's only one person that could have done it, and that's Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill could have simply said, I'm not going to do this script. I'm not. It's not Luke Skywalker. I'm not going to do it. That would have been the courageous thing to do. And it would have been courageous because they obviously have him under ironclad legal contracts. It could have sued the living daylights out of him, sued him for every penny he's worth. But he could have taken the moral high ground, and he would have won. And if he hadn't been a coward, he knew he would have won. He could have simply said, no question, that you've got the legal right to make that I have to do this movie. I'm contractually bound to do this movie. There's no question about that. There's no question if I fail to do the movie, you're going to sue me. And there's no question that if I fail to do the movie and you sue me, you're going to win because it's crystal clear right in the contract. However, if you don't change this entire script and if you don't make this guy into Luke Skywalker again, I will not do the script. And furthermore, I will tell the fandom around the world that the man who played Luke Skywalker is not going to play this role and is going to go to jail or lose all of his personal wealth because what you have given me is something so far away from the character that I simply refuse to do it. Now, if you want to take that kind of PR hit, okay. I'm not playing chicken with you, and I'm not bluffing. I'm just telling you. I would rather be sued for every penny I have than ruin my legacy like this. See, that's actual integrity. That's character, and that's honor. And that's not what he did. He just went around and bitched about it and cried about it and moaned about it and tried to warn people about it. It's kind of like this Bolton thing. Well, I kind of warned people. I tried to warn people. And, all these whistleblowers, I've been trying to warn people. I sent hints. It's like, if you've got something to say, get out there and say it. And if you get into trouble, then get into trouble, for God's sake. If you really believe it, then act on it. And to hell with the consequences. If it's the right thing to do and you're sure you've got the truth on your side, then stand up and speak the truth. But no. And when they don't, that tells me there's nothing there. It's what it does. It tells me that no, if this was really a constitutional, life-threatening abuse of power, you would have stood up and said something. And for you to say, well, if I had, there would have been legal consequences. Well, the hell with the legal consequences, man. You know, this is a question of right and wrong. It's not a question of legislation. Same for you, Mark Hamill, you miserable coward, you whiny crybaby. You know, this is not right. This is wrong. This is against everything that Star Wars is. It's nothing like Luke Skywalker. You're right. Who can possibly do anything about this? You can. You can simply refuse to do it. And you can tell them, if you decide to go after me for refusing to do this script, I will go to the fandom. I will go over your head. I'll go over the heads of the courts. I'll go over the contract. I'll go over all of it. And I'll go directly to the American people or the fandom or whatever, and I'll tell the truth. And that'll be it. Okay? And I will suffer the consequences for my actions. I'm aware of that. I understand that. I'm not asking to get forgiven. I'm not asking to be let out of my contract. I understand I'm going to pay a big price for this. But, and Eric Blake says he's a true lefty. It's nothing to do with left and right politics. It has to do with fundamental courage and integrity. And that's when I realized that Mark Hamill is not Luke Skywalker. And this is the thing that we just constantly forget. Harrison Ford called Donald Trump a son of a bitch. And it's like, oh, that's disappointing. But it's not really, because Harrison Ford isn't Han Solo and he's not Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones wouldn't have said that, but it's not Indiana Jones. It's an actor. They're not heroes. They're children. You know, they're children, and they've got a look and a sound, and I think I mentioned this in the members only thing on formerly members only right angle on Fallen Idols. It's like, you don't feel bad when an actor gives a political opinion like Joaquin Phoenix. If Joaquin Phoenix came out against Donald Trump, I wouldn't particularly care, because Joaquin Phoenix is an actor. He's an extremely good actor. He's by far the best actor I've ever seen. By far. He's in an entirely different category than anybody else on this planet. He made Philip Seymour Hoffman disappear when they were on the screen together. He's the best actor I've ever seen by an order of magnitude. And if he came out strongly opposed to Trump, I wouldn't care very much. You know why? Because I don't identify with Joaquin Phoenix. He's such a good actor. He's played so many different roles. I don't know who he is, and I don't really care. But Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and Tom Cruise and Matt Damon are movie stars. And the reason that they're not actors, that they're all good actors. Tom Cruise a little on the edge, but the rest of them are really good actors. And the reason that it's different is because Harrison Ford, as an example, always plays the same guy. He's always the same guy. And you like him. He looks like an all-American guy. He's got a manly voice. He's got a cool attitude. You like him. And he's always the same guy. And so when that guy comes out and says something like the president's a son of a bitch, it's like you think, I've been betrayed. You've been betrayed. You've been fooled. You thought you knew him, but you never did. Dave Wellman says his acceptance speech was one of the worst Oscar speeches ever. Was he drunk? I don't know. I didn't see it. Nobody saw it. But if he was drunk, I don't care. And furthermore, the fact that he cannot speak in public is an indication of how brilliant he is. I know that's an odd thing to say, and certainly an indication of where my IQ level is, because I'm very good speaking in public. But in any event, he doesn't have to be a good public speaker. To be as good an actor as he is, you have to essentially have nothing inside except the ability to change color. And so movie stars aren't like that. And that's why when they say something you disagree with, you feel hurt. It's like you feel like you knew him. So anyway, that's just that.